Welcome to the Tufdek installation video. In the next few minutes we will show you how to properly install Tufdek vinyl flooring with easy to follow step-by-step directions. Installed properly, this durable and attractive vinyl deck material will give you many years of superior service. Tufdek was designed to be the strongest, longest lasting waterproof deck service in the industry. With our manufacturing partners and extensive quality control standards, we believe Tufdek will outperform all other waterproof decking products.
The Tufdek material we are using to cover the deck is a variation of PVC, which was discovered in the early 1920s and has since become the most versatile material in the building industry. More than half of the 11 billion pounds of PVC resin produced annually are used in construction materials. Before starting, we recommend that you work safely. Please conform to all your local WorkSafe regulations, as well as written instructions on all materials and containers. Now, let's get started. There are a number of tools needed for the installation of Tufdek. Here is a collection of materials and tools we used for this installation. Although you don't need all of these tools, most of them will be required. The deck surface must be clean, dry, and smooth before Tufdek vinyl is applied. All deck imperfections must be removed, sanded, and filled with floor filler. Otherwise, they will show through the finished covering. It is important to sweep or blow off the deck between steps to enable you to check the surface. Make sure there are no nails or screws sticking up above the plywood. Temperature and moisture are important issues. Always check these levels and make sure you are working within the recommended conditions. Start by sanding the entire surface of the deck. This will help expose any possible problems. All loose knots, plywood delamination, and wood splinters must be dug out and swept or blown off the deck before applying floor filler. The materials required for patching are a pail of Tough Patch floor filler, water, a small mixing container, and 2 different size spreaders. A small 4-inch and a larger 8-inch. The small spreader is for patching knot holes, while the large spreader is for filling plywood checking and large areas of plywood delamination. Mix the Tough Patch floor filler following the directions on the pail. Take your time and make sure you've removed all the lumps and mix the floor filler completely. You must work fairly quickly, as the floor filler will start to set in a few minutes, depending on the air temperature and the humidity.
Try to spread the floor filler smoothly as it dries very hard and all excess will need to be sanded off. Start by filling all the plywood joints and large wood imperfections, then do the small imperfections. The floor filler must be completely dried before sanding.
While the floor filler is drying, the Tuf-Clad flashing can be installed. Tuf-Clad vinyl covered metal flashing is applied to the outside deck edge to help create a watertight finish. It is recommended that you plane or sand the outside 2 inches of the deck edge before installing the flashing to create a surface that will not hold back water.
Always check the flashing with a level or square to make sure it is lower than the deck surface and sloping to the outside edge.
Nail the flashing using an air nailer or nail by hand using galvanized ring nails. Be sure to make the nails flush with the flashing.
At the inside edge of the deck, if there is a gap between the deck plywood and building walls, then galvanized flashing should be installed to prevent the vinyl from sagging into an open gap.
Now that the deck has been filled and the flashings are in place, the whole deck is ready to be resanded. The deck surface at this stage will reflect the end product. The better the job you do with the deck preparation, the better the finished deck will look. When the final sanding is finished, be sure to sweep or blow off the deck thoroughly. It is important that no debris or sawdust is left on the deck before the next step.
When laying out the vinyl sheets, it's important to allow enough material to overhang the deck edges 3 inches, enough vinyl to run up the walls 6 to 8 inches, and for the overlapping seams between multiple sheets of vinyl, 1.5 inches. Start with the first sheet at the outside edge of the deck parallel with the edge flashing. Roll out the vinyl carefully, cutting around any posts and details. Once you have glued the first panel in place, you can then lay out the next panel of vinyl, making sure to overlap the first sheet 1.5 inches. Check your measurements and lay out carefully before gluing.
Tufdek roll-on latex is applied using a Tufdek professional roller sleeve and heavy-grade commercial roller cage. Apply adhesive onto the plywood deck surface using a one-sided transfer application. It is important to apply the adhesive with a consistent rate of coverage and not to have thin and thick patches. Start by folding the sheet of vinyl back. Apply the roll-on adhesive to the deck surface and then fold the vinyl back into the adhesive while the adhesive is still wet, allowing for the glue to transfer to the back of the sheet of the vinyl. The vinyl sheet is then pushed into the adhesive with a plastic wallpaper spreader, broom, or linoleum roller. The purpose of this step is to push out the air from under the Tufdek and to help transfer the adhesive to the back of the vinyl sheet. Repeat the same process for the other half of the sheet of vinyl, as well as the remaining vinyl sheets.
For upturn areas, verticals, apply the adhesive to the back of the vinyl and the wall surface. Allow the adhesive to become tacky, then roll the vinyl into the adhesive to prevent the vinyl from falling away from the wall. Place staples along the top edge of the vinyl.
Once all the sheets of vinyl are in place, you can work on the various details. If the doors are not in place and the sills are open, you can run the vinyl across the sill and weld Tufguard pre-made corners at the sides of the door jamb. It is recommended, if you have no experience with hot air welding, that you practice on some scrap material before proceeding to the deck. Do not allow the welder tip to contact the finished surface of the vinyl. It will melt the vinyl and distort the surface. Do not hold the tip of the welder stationary on any object for more than a second or two. It may cause it to burn or melt. Hot air welding two main deck panels together is done by placing the tip of a hot air welder between the two vinyl sheets at the seam, and then melting the two pieces together using the welding roller to apply pressure.
To hot air weld Tufdek to Tuf-Clad PVC metal, place the tip of the welder between the two materials while at the same time using the roller to press the two surfaces together.
At wood posts, you can use the Tufguard pre-made PVC corners to wrap around the posts and heat weld them to the deck surface. Wrapping the Tufdek around the posts takes time and patience. There is a heat adjustment on the hot air welder, which is used to set the welder to the correct temperature. We recommend you try a setting of 6 to 8, but always try to weld a scrap piece of vinyl before trying to weld the actual finished deck. Hot air welding is an important step and requires patience. Making the project completely waterproof depends on the integrity of the seams. Take your time and check your work. Double check all the seams to make sure there are no small pinholes.